Before we use layers and create visibility options for the first floor and the second floor, let's just pan over and I want to show you why we only use layers to control visibility and why layers don't control geometry. So first thing, always want to make sure that the blue little dot here is always on layer 0. That's going to show the layer that is currently active, and you always want to draw on layer 0. And this is exactly why in this example. Let's just draw a rectangle. And let's just draw some circles. We're going to make some cheese here, Swiss cheese. All right, so we got some circles here. Let's add a new layer. Click the little plus sign. We're just going to call it layer 1. And again, always make sure that layer 0 is your active layer. And let's say we're modeling this Swiss cheese and we want to make the holes a different layer. So we'll double click, hold down Shift. We'll select all of them. To change layers in SketchUp, we want to go to Window, Entity Info. You actually don't use this palette. It's a weird thing in SketchUp. You can't change object layers in the Layers palette. You actually have to change them in Entity Info. If you try and click here, that's not changing the layer of your selection. You have to do it in Entity Info. So in the drop-down panel here, go to Layer 1. Entity Info, as we explained a little bit earlier, is your properties of your object. So in this case, you see the entities that you're selecting. But remember, when we were looking at arcs and curves, you could change the number of sides or segments in it, and so on. And let's go ahead and just turn off Layer 1. The big reason why we use groups or components to control geometry is since these aren't groups or components, when I go to draw a new object, maybe on top of this, I'm going to get this warning. And it's telling me your recent operation has caused visible geometry to merge with existing geometry on a hidden layer. Even though the holes of our Swiss cheese are hidden, you can still interrupt or affect that geometry because we're drawing on top of it. To avoid this from happening, you want to make your objects groups, and you only want to use layers to control visibility. So if we in fact wanted the Swiss cheese to basically be separate, what we'll do is right click and make it a group. And then that group will assign to layer 1. So that now we can turn that off. And if we draw on top of it, we're only affecting the geometry here. Our other geometry is grouped and it's separate. Let's just delete all this, delete our group, move back to our model, because for visibility, we're going to keep a layer 0, but for layer 1, we're going to double click on it and call this first floor. We're going to create a new layer called second floor. And then we're just going to click on our group of the second floor, assign it to the second floor layer, click on the first group, assign it to the first floor layer. And now you can see we can turn these on and off. We'll eventually add more layers like furniture. Sometimes you want to just turn all your furniture off, your ceiling layers, your roof layer. And if you get into real specific detail, you can turn your people on and off. You can also use layers in conjunction with scenes. And let's take a look at scenes in the next section.